Looking for a super easy crochet Santa hat? This pattern works up in a snap and includes this amazing pom-pom. Hi, it's Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making the super easy Santa hat, perfect for beginners. We make this hat just with double crochets and chain stitches, including this amazing pom-pom, and it is so fast and easy to do. To make your easy crochet Santa hat with chenille yarn trim, you are going to need red and white yarn. I'm using chenille for the white and just regular size 4 worsted weight acrylic for the red. I'm using a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You will need a scrap of white acrylic yarn, about 3 feet, 30 stitch markers, a pair of scissors, and a needle for assembly. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. So we're going to start by making a slip knot and a starting chain, and you want to leave a bit of a tail. We're going to join up our hat at the end with this tail here, so maybe about 8 inches will be plenty. So just make a slip knot with a longer tail, and shrink that down, pop it onto your hook, and we're just going to chain the diameter or the circumference of your head. For me, I'm going to be chaining 65. I am an adult size small or a teenager size head. And you can just increase that. Every 4 stitches is about 1 inch. So for me, I'm chaining 65. 1, 2, 3. If you'd like to follow along with the written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com, and all of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. So to measure if your chain is the right size, you just want to go around your head where you would be wearing your hat, just across the top. And you can pull it a little bit. Crochet always stretches. So if this was my size, I would have to take a few stitches out. You want to pull it and have it just kind of reaching. Oops, just like that. So that is how you can tell if it is the right size. For me, I am chaining 65, 64, and 65. So there is my starting chain. I'm going to go into the second stitch. So you don't count what's on your hook. This is the first stitch after my hook right here. We're going to be going into the second stitch, and you don't have to worry about going into the back loops. We're just going to go into that top loop because we're also going to be working back into the chain with the brim of the hat. So skipping 1 and into the second chain, we're going to make 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet into the next chain as well. So 2 single crochets, then wrap your yarn. We're going to do a half double crochet into the next stitch and the stitch after. So 2 half double crochets. And now we're going to do a double crochet into each stitch all the way along the rest of our chain. So that was the tricky bit. Now you can pause the video, keep working along. We're going to be making 1 double crochet into each chain, just a regular double crochet into that top loop of each chain, all the way along. And I'll meet you when we get all the way to the end of your chain right over here. At the end of your row, just make sure you go into that last chain with your last double crochet. And that finishes the first row. Now we're just going to lay out our hat in a circle. Let me move it up a bit for you. We don't want any twists. So see how it's like flat all the way around? It doesn't have to be an actual circle. You just want to make sure it doesn't have a twist. You don't want anything like that. You just want the same side of the stitches facing up. And now we're going to look for that first single crochet we made. That is where we're going to work into. So that's on this skinny little bit, the tip of our hat. And that first stitch is right here. That's where we're going to be making our first stitch, or where we're going to be joining. And how we're going to join is with a double crochet. We're going to be working in a spiral. So it's a super easy pattern. This is the tricky bit. Just look for that first single crochet right there. And that's where we're going to do our double crochet. So 1 double crochet. It looks funny, don't worry about it, just keep going. Ignore everything hanging from your hook. We worked into that first stitch right there. Now we're going to work into the next stitch. So 1 double crochet, and now we're just doing double crochets all the way around, 1 into each stitch. And you can tell you've already worked into the stitch if you just follow that double crochet back and then look for that whole entire stitch right there. So the next stitch is over here. It can be easy to put 2 stitches into one because it looks like that stitch is way off to the side. It's not. So just keep going back. Make sure if you've worked into that stitch, skip it and work in. Well, don't skip it. You've already worked into it. Work into the next stitch. So now you can pause the video, work all the way around, 1 double crochet into each stitch, just like regular, like usual, and I will meet you when we get right back over here. Isn't that already so great? It's so flat and wonderful. I love it. So pause the video. I'll meet you when you get right back over there. When you get back to where our join is, we have just regular stitches on that top edge, so just ignore what's happening underneath and just work into those stitches on top. 1 double crochet into each stitch, just straight across that join area, just ignoring that join. We're going to join it, but we're going to do that at the end just to make sure we know exactly how our hat wants to be. So just 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. So that has completed 2 rows right where our join is. Now you can grab your stitch markers, and I'm just going to go around one of these stitches near the join. It doesn't have to be exactly that particular same perfect spot, somewhere in that area. Fold your hat in half from where your stitch marker is. We just want to mark a stitch on the other end as well, or the other side. Just pop a stitch marker so you have one on each side of your hat. And then keep making your 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way along until you reach the area of the next stitch marker. Now when you get closer to that stitch marker, the stitch marker marks where we're going to do a decrease. So we're going to be decreasing on each end of our hat. So on one side a decrease, on the other side a decrease. And I don't want them exactly stacked on top of each other. I don't want to have a whole seam going on. So I'm just going to pick an area. So for right now, I'm going to do it on top of the stitch marker, but then I'll show you how to kind of space them out or stagger them so it looks the best it can. So into the next stitch, we're going to do a decrease or start our next double crochet. So bring your yarn back, wrap and take off 2, leaving those 2 loops onto your hook. Wrap your yarn and into the next stitch. Grab your yarn and bring it back. So now you have 4 loops. Wrap and take off 2. You have 3 loops. Wrap and take off all 3. So that is your DC2 tog or double crochet decrease right there. And now we're just going to keep going, making 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around until we get closer to the other stitch marker where we're going to do a decrease again. So here we are back at the other stitch marker, and I'm going to do a decrease again. So wrap your yarn and into the first stitch. Bring your yarn back, wrap and take off 2, but you're going to leave those last 2 loops on your hook. And you're going to start a double crochet into the next stitch as well. So insert your hook, bring your yarn back, wrap and take off 2. So you have 3 loops left. Wrap and take off all 3 loops. And if you turn your hook so it's facing down or facing the underneath those stitches, that will make it slide through a lot easier. And now keep going 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around until we reach the next stitch marker on the other side. Now when we get back to where our stitch marker is, our decrease is right here, those cute little stitches together. And this is where we don't want to decrease. We don't want to decrease including that same stitch because it'll make like a bit of a bigger hole along the side of your hat. So wherever our decrease was before, we are avoiding that stitch. So I'm going to work straight over top of our decrease below and the next stitch after, and I'm going to do my decrease on the other side of it, the far side. So you can do your decrease before or after, just not on top. You can see how even that is a larger stitch or larger hole right there. We don't want to decrease into that. So there is a regular stitch into the decrease and after the decrease. And then I'm going to do my decrease, so staggering it. So wrapping and taking off 2, leaving the last 2 on my hook, starting the next double crochet into the next stitch, bringing my hook back, taking off 2, 3 loops left, wrapping, turning my hook so it's facing me, and taking off those 3 loops. And now regular double crochets into each stitch all the way around until you reach the area where your next stitch marker is. Now coming up on the next stitch marker, my decrease is right here. You can see there's 2 stitches at the bottom and only 1 stitch at the top. I don't want to do a decrease into that same stitch. It'll make it too big. So I am going to start my decrease before. I'm going to do these 2 stitches right here for my decrease and then just keep working all the way around until I get to the next stitch marker. So I'm going to decrease before that last decrease. So starting a double crochet into the first stitch, starting a double crochet into the second stitch, wrapping and taking off all 3 loops. So now I have a decrease over here. My last one is over there. See a decrease and a decrease? We just want them to be staggered. I'll just double crochet over top and then I'll show you how it looks. So there is my decrease right here and a decrease right there. So that's how it's going to look, and nice and smooth and flat, just along our 2 edges. So now you can pause the video, just keep working along, staggering that decrease every time you get to the stitch marker area. You can move your stitch markers up when it grows so that you can see that area a little bit easier. And I will meet you when your Santa hat is almost done. After some rows, you can move your stitch marker up just to mark that same center area, that same half. So we know where we want to keep our decreases going. And I've just been staggering my decreases as I work up, a little before, a little after. If you are new to crochet, you can use a stitch marker to mark your decrease. So when you do your decrease, so you start your first, you start your second, finish them together. You can just pop a stitch marker into that stitch. Leave your ones that mark the side. I'm using a different color to mark your stitch. And then you'll know where that decrease is. You'll know to avoid it by a stitch on each side. So not working into the stitch right before, not working into the stitch after. So giving the stitch marker some clearance and just staggering your decreases all the way up. So now pause the video, keep working along, and I will see you when your Santa hat is up here. So I've done 30 rows. This is 31 right up there, and it is pretty small. You could stop sooner if you wanted to. Whatever shape you want on the end of your Santa hat is totally fine. You can do it however you like. For me, I have about 10 stitches left. So this is row 30, and this is row 31 I've started. And it's just kind of tiny now. There's no point of really going on, so I'll just show you a little cheat so we can just finish. So I finished my last stitch, and I'm just going to go in to the other side, so just across that opening, just into, it doesn't matter which stitch, and I'm just going to slip stitch the top of that hat closed, chain 1 to secure my yarn, and cut my yarn. I'm going to leave a bit of a tail in case I need it to help sew on our pom-pom. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, snug that down to secure. If you are not putting on a pom-pom, you could just sew in your tail, and that would be finished. You can pop out your stitch markers. And we can also sew closed our opening. Let me turn that around, easier to see. So go ahead and grab your yarn needle and thread it. And now we have this join to join together. So I'm just going to go into this corner, just through like that. And that's going to pinch it together, so it'll be nice and flat at the bottom. That's the new bottom of the hat. And you can pull that really snug. And now I'm going to go underneath this stitch, over and back up. We want to kind of close this in a little bit, especially along the brim. So up the stitch or down, depending whichever way you're doing it, through a stitch, I suppose, over to the next stitch, through the stitch, and now I want to get this area here a little more secure along the brim because it only has one strand of yarn. And of course, crochet naturally would have more strands. I'm just going to go a little bit back and forth along that join just to strengthen it so it has the same look and feel as crochet. So there is our join. And our spiral is quite nice and flat. And now fold your hat in half so that that join is on the side seam. And now we are ready to attach the brim. So lay your hat out, pretty stitches facing out, just like this. And with that join where we started our spiral on the side, so that means our decreases are along the edges, and we just want to pick a front and back. So I'm just going to go into the center of our hat on the one side, and that's where we're going to join our yarn and start. So just insert your hook, loop of white yarn on your hook, bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail and chain 2, 1 and 2. This counts as our first double crochet, and you can work over your tail for a couple stitches. We're going to be matching our stitches, so these stitches that we made into the chain, we're going to be making another double crochet into the other side of the chain. So we're just going to be working into each of these spots, just matching or mirroring the double crochets that we already made. So into the next stitch, or actually it's the chain, 1 double crochet, and 1 double crochet into the base of each stitch all the way along. So 1 double crochet into each chain, matching the stitches that are already there. You can pause the video and just keep working along, making sure that each stitch of your hat gets a stitch for the brim. And I will meet you when we get closer to the join right over here. I'll show you how to tackle that little area right there. So we're going to work into that stitch before the join. And we're going to work into the stitch after the join, just trying to keep it looking as good as we can. Like that. So pause the video, keep working along, 1 double crochet into each chain. And I will meet you when you get back over here to where we started. When you get back to where we started, just make sure that each double crochet has a double crochet above it. So this will be my last one. Slip stitch into the top of your chain to join. You want 2 strands of that yarn on the top of your hook. So just slip stitch and then chain 1, a loose chain 1. We're going to go into that same stitch and make a real double crochet. So into that stitch, 1 double crochet. And if you want to mark that stitch with a stitch marker so you know where to join, that is our first double crochet right there. And now into each stitch going all the way around, 1 double crochet into each. So now you can pause the video again and just get caught up, 1 double crochet into each stitch, and then I'll meet you when we get back to the stitch marker right there. When you get back to where we joined, just make sure that each double crochet has a double crochet on top of it, but no more, no less, just 1 double crochet for each. So that's the last one. And we can slip stitch right to where our stitch marker is. A little slip stitch to join and a chain 1. I pull up that chain one a little bit. I don't want it like super, super tight. And we can move up that stitch marker out. And into the very same stitch, our 1 double crochet to start. And we can pop that stitch marker back in to mark it if you're new to crochet. So now pause the video and keep working along. You need to do a total of 4 rows for your border. When you've done your 4 rows, we are ready to join, but instead of just slip stitching like we normally have, we're going to finish with an invisible join. So to do that, we're going to cut our yarn and pull your hook up and your yarn through. So we're not doing a chain 1 or anything. We're just bringing that yarn through that last double crochet we made. Thread your needle. And now we're going to use our needle just like we were using our crochet hook. So we're going to insert our needle exactly where we would be putting in our crochet hook, but it's a needle. And we're going to keep an eye on where our yarn is coming from, the center of that last double crochet. And before it gets too tight, we're just going to put our needle right back down where it came from. Right there. So now we have this big loop. We're just going to shrink it up until it is the same size as the other stitches. There. Like that. And now we can go ahead and sew in our tail. So I'm just going to get that tail away from the edge. And then I'm going to use a sharp tip needle to finish sewing it in. So there is our join all finished. Now we are ready to do this pom-pom. So take your chenille yarn and your stitch markers, make a slip knot any which way you normally do, shrink that down, and pop it onto your hook. And we're going to chain sets of 14. So just chain 14, 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And now into that last chain we made, just under one loop, just right there, just pop in a stitch marker. It's going to be marking every 14th chain. And chain 14 again. 1, 2, 3, 13, and 14. And pop a stitch marker into the stitch or that chain right underneath our crochet hook. And now just repeat that until you've used up all of your stitch markers. When you have finished your chain and used up all of your stitch markers, cut your yarn, leaving a 3 or 4 inch tail. Chain 1 and just pull that tail through and snug down to secure. Now go ahead and get your white yarn, fold it in half, and the folded end we're going to put around a stitch marker. Just poke the folded end through the stitch marker and then slip stitch it, or just grab that yarn and bring it through just like that to attach it to a stitch marker. The other end you're going to put through your yarn needle, both tails. For this tutorial, because you won't be able to see the white on the white, I'm going to be using a different color, but you will use white yarn for this next step. So I'm going to use this red color just so you can see how I'm doing the assembly for this pom-pom. So starting where we began, we're just going to find one strand of that very first chain we made, just like that, just one strand, and pull your yarn through. You want to leave a few inches hanging on the other side. We don't want to lose our stitch marker, or we don't lose our yarn. And now bring the next stitch marker over and just go through that same loop. Like that, and you can pop your stitch marker out. And just thread that loop onto your yarn. We want to do the same thing for each stitch marker all the way along. So we're just going to go under that same strand of yarn and pop your stitch marker out and slide it down on your center yarn. So we're just threading one strand of each of the 14th chains all the way down. So you can pause the video, thread one strand of your 14th chain, where your stitch marker is, all the way along your chain until they're all thread it up just like this. When your last stitch marker or last loop is joined or put onto your center yarn, just lay it out. We want to have that center strand. For me, it's this red yarn. We want that facing up. Might have to turn yours around a little bit. We don't want any yarn or any loops in front of it. There, just like that. So we have just that one strand of yarn over our center color, our center tail. And now we can just carefully lay it flat. And we can pull up each side. So just lay your hand over and pull up one side and then pull up the other side. We don't want any loops going into the center area. We can take our yarn needle off. We can take our stitch marker off. And now we're going to tie a hockey skate tie. It just helps the yarn it helps it stay nice and tight instead of getting loose after we let go. So tie it once, just like a shoelace, like that. And now we're going to do it one more loop. So put it through one more time. And that is a hockey skate tie. So that's how you can tie your hockey skates so that they don't slip loose when you're finishing that tie. So there is our center. No loops are in the middle. Now we're ready to give it a big pull. Really, really tight. And see how it didn't shrink back? That is the beauty of the hockey skate tie. Now get your tails back together in the center. And now we can just knot it like regular. Our center tails, we can give these a knot as well, and we can cut those off. And now we're ready to attach it to our Santa hat. So it's super easy to attach to the top of your Santa hat. Go ahead and thread your tails, both pair on both sides, like that. I'm just going to thread the other one onto another needle, but you could use the same needle. And now on my Santa hat, I'm just going to go from one side to the other with my one tail. Let me get it a bit loose. There we go. And the opposite direction with the second tail. There's one side and out the other. I'm also going through a slightly different spot at the top of the hat. There. Now we can pull that nice and snug. We have our tail. I'm just going to knot that with one of these tails, wherever it's close to. So that's included. And I'm going to knot the tails again, like that. And now I'm just going to poke these tails inside the hat. Now you can cut your tails, making sure you are not cutting your hat. So give them a little bit of a pull, and then they'll shrink back into the center of your hat. There, just like that. And there is your super cute pom-pom on your Santa hat. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video up there, and stay hooked.